What if the story of civilization you learned in school is wrong? What if the neat timeline of human progress from hunter to farmer to city dweller is completely backward? What if I told you that long before the pyramids, long before Stonehenge, even before anyone had invented farming or pottery, ancient hunter-gatherers built a massive, sophisticated temple complex? A structure so old and so advanced it would stay hidden for nearly 12,000 years, waiting to shatter everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. This isn't a fantasy. This is the story of Göbekli Tepe, tucked away in the hills of southeastern Turkey. This archaeological site is forcing us to rethink the very dawn of human civilization. It's a place of giant T-shaped pillars carved with fearsome beasts, all arranged in perfect circles under the Anatolian sky. It's a puzzle that turns our most basic assumptions about our own past on their head. Who were these people? How did a pre-agricultural society, supposedly living hand to mouth, manage the vision and manpower for such a colossal project? And the biggest question of all, why? In this video, we're going to journey to this incredible site to decode the secrets of its giant pillars and see how it's rewriting our ancient past. We'll explore the moment of its stunning discovery, walk through its mysterious stone circles, and confront the revolutionary idea it presents, that it wasn't agriculture that sparked civilization, but maybe the other way around, that the urge to worship, to come together in shared belief, was the real catalyst for the modern world. Our story doesn't begin in the mists of prehistory, but in our own time, with a hill local farmers called Göbekli Tepe, or Potbelly Hill. It was a fitting name for the rounded mound that rose from the Jermuk Mountains. For generations, farmers clearing their fields would unearth large, oddly shaped blocks of limestone. To them, they were just a nuisance. In the 1960s, academics surveyed the area but dismissed the slabs as remnants of an abandoned medieval cemetery. And so, the pot-bellied hill kept its 12,000-year-old secret. The story might have ended right there if it weren't for the curiosity of one man, Klaus Schmidt. A German archaeologist, Schmidt had been working on other Neolithic sites in the region. He'd heard about the strange stones of Göbekli Tepe and read the old, dismissive reports, but something didn't sit right with him. In 1994, he decided to see the hill for himself. What he saw that day changed his life and modern archaeology forever. As he walked the summit, he noticed things the previous surveys had missed. He saw an incredible amount of flint chippings, far too many for a small nomadic camp. This suggested tool-making on an almost industrial scale. And then he saw them. The tops of immense T-shaped pillars just peeking out of the ground. Schmidt knew in an instant these were no medieval headstones. He recognized the T-shape as a hallmark of the pre-pottery Neolithic period, but the sheer size of these pillars was unlike anything anyone had ever seen from that era. It was a true eureka moment. Schmidt realized he wasn't standing on a cemetery. He was standing on a massive structure, built by people who, according to the textbooks, shouldn't have been able to build it. He knew right then this was his life's work. As he later said, "I had two choices. Either I go away and tell nobody, or I spend the rest of my life here." And next year, excavations began. As Schmidt and his team peeled back the layers of earth, the true scale of Göbekli Tepe emerged. They uncovered not just a few pillars, but dozens, arranged in massive circular enclosures with two even larger monoliths in the center of each ring. The world of archaeology was stunned. Here was a complex, artistically brilliant structure built 6,000 years before Stonehenge and 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. And it was built by hunter-gatherers. The discovery didn't just add a new chapter to human history. It forced us to rethink the entire book. To really grasp how important Göbekli Tepe is, you have to understand just how mind-bogglingly old it is. When we think of ancient, we think of Rome, Athens, or the pyramids. But Göbekli Tepe makes them all look like recent history. Try this thought experiment. The Roman Empire is separated from us by about 2,000 years. Now, imagine you're a Roman legionary standing in the Colosseum looking back in time. The gap between you and the builders of the Great Pyramid is about 2,500 years. That feels like an eternity. But the gap between the Great Pyramid and Göbekli Tepe is more than 7,000 years. The time separating Göbekli Tepe from ancient Rome is more than twice the time separating ancient Rome from us today. The people who built Göbekli Tepe lived in a world we barely recognize. The last ice age had just ended. The landscape was a lush, green savanna roamed by herds of wild gazelles and aurochs. Most of northern Europe was still covered in ice. Humanity was scattered in small, nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers who hadn't yet domesticated plants or animals, or even invented pottery. For over a century, the standard story of history was simple. First came the Neolithic revolution, when humans started farming. That created a food surplus, which allowed people to settle in villages. Villages grew into towns, societies became complex, and only then, with time and resources to spare, did people build temples and create organized religion. It was a neat, tidy story that made perfect sense. And Göbekli Tepe blew it to pieces. The site's oldest layers date to between 9,500 and 8,000 BCE, and they were built by hunter-gatherers. There's no evidence of farming or domesticated animals from this period. This presents a staggering paradox. The temple came before the town. It seems the grand communal act of worship came before the settled life we thought it required. It's as if someone built a cathedral before anyone had even thought of a village. Walking through Göbekli Tepe is like stepping into the mind of our most distant ancestors. What the team unearthed is a complex of structures unlike any other. The site is made of multiple circular enclosures. 4 of these massive rings have been excavated, but geomagnetic surveys show at least 16 more are still buried. What we can see today is probably less than 5% of the entire site. Each enclosure follows a similar design. A ring of huge limestone pillars, up to 12 of them, defines the space. These are the iconic T-shaped monoliths. They're enormous, many standing 18 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons. That's like 3 large elephants. In the center of each circle stand 2 even larger pillars, facing each other. The logistics here are staggering. The builders had no wheels, no draft animals, and no metal tools. Their entire toolkit was made of stone. Archaeologists found the quarry a quarter-mile away, where you can still see a colossal 50-ton pillar that was left unfinished after it cracked. Imagine hundreds of people chipping away at the bedrock with flint, then using ropes, wooden rollers, and sheer muscle to move a multi-ton monolith across the landscape. This implies a level of social organization and planning that archaeologists didn't think was possible for hunter-gatherers. Someone had to design it, direct the workforce, and most importantly, figure out how to feed everyone. But it's not just the scale, it's the artistry. The pillars are covered in exquisitely carved images of animals: snarling lions, powerful bulls, cunning foxes, and wild boars. There are snakes, scorpions, and vultures everywhere. Even more mysterious are the pillars themselves. They aren't just supports. They're stylized human figures. They don't have faces, but many have arms carved along their sides, with hands meeting above a carved belt or loincloth. The T-shape at the top is thought to be an abstract head. These silent, stone giants aren't just holding up a roof. They are the assembly. The 2 massive pillars in the center may be mythical ancestors or powerful gods. They stand in a circle, facing inward, creating a sacred meeting of powerful beings, frozen in stone. So we have the what and the how. But the ultimate question that echoes through these stone circles is, why? Why did nomads suddenly feel the need to build the world's first great temple? The most widely accepted idea is that Göbekli Tepe was a sacred ceremonial center. It wasn't a place people lived. It was a destination, a place of pilgrimage. The circular design, separating the inside from the outside, is classic sacred architecture. The pillar beings themselves would have formed an awe-inspiring audience for whatever rituals took place. What kind of rituals? One theory centers on massive feasts. Bringing together different bands of hunter-gatherers to build the temple would have been a huge cooperative project. Afterward, the site would have served as a meeting point. Archaeologists have found tens of thousands of animal bones, mostly gazelle and wild cattle, suggesting large-scale feasting. These feasts would have cemented alliances and reinforced a common culture under the eyes of the stone gods. Another, darker theory involves a cult of the dead. Vultures are very prominent in the art here. In many cultures, vultures are linked to the sky and death. This has led some to propose Göbekli Tepe was a center for sky burials, where bodies of the deceased were left exposed for vultures to consume. The famous vulture stone in Enclosure D shows a large vulture next to a headless human figure, which seems to support this idea. The main challenge to this theory, however, is that no complete human skeletons have been found in the ritual areas. Only bone fragments mixed into the fill used to bury the site. There are other, more speculative ideas. Some researchers suggest the site was an astronomical observatory, with alignments tracking stars or meteor showers. One controversial hypothesis claims the vulture stone is a date stamp for a catastrophic comet impact around 10,950 BCE. However, it's important to know that these astronomical theories are considered minority views among the main excavation team, who note that with so many pillars, finding a coincidental celestial alignment is statistically likely. Perhaps the deepest mystery is not how Göbekli Tepe began, but how it ended. After centuries of use, the enclosures weren't just abandoned. They were deliberately and carefully buried, a monumental task in itself. Why would a society spend so much energy building these magnificent structures only to painstakingly entomb them? Was it a ritual to decommission a sacred space? Did beliefs change? Or were they trying to protect its sacred essence by returning it to the earth? Whatever the reason, this final act kept the secrets of Potbelly Hills safe for millennia. For so long, the story of civilization seemed simple. It all started with a seed. The invention of agriculture was the great catalyst. Farming led to food surpluses, which led to permanent villages, which grew into cities. With a stable home and a full belly, society could develop social hierarchies, writing, and organized religion. The temple, in this story, was a product of the city. Göbekli Tepe flips that script completely upside down. It gives us what Klaus Schmidt famously called a cathedral on a hill, built by people who hadn't yet started farming. The implication is revolutionary. It suggests the whole chain of events we thought we knew might be backward. The new, radical hypothesis spurred by Göbekli Tepe is this: what if the need for religion is what led to agriculture, not the other way around? Think about it. Building Göbekli Tepe required hundreds of people from different nomadic bands to work together for long periods. They needed to be organized, led, and above all, fed. Hunting and gathering might not have been enough to support such a large group in one place. This created intense pressure. The huge religious project of building and maintaining Göbekli Tepe might have been the very thing that pushed humanity to start farming. The need to feed the builders and pilgrims could have kick-started the cultivation of wild grasses, like einkorn wheat, which grew in the area. And in fact, the world's earliest evidence for domesticated wheat comes from a site just 20 miles away, dating to the same time period. This is no longer seen as a coincidence. In this new story, the temple was the catalyst. The shared beliefs and rituals at Göbekli Tepe acted as a social glue, uniting people with a common purpose. This social cohesion was the software for civilization. The need to sustain it then drove the development of the hardware, agriculture, and permanent villages. People might have settled down not because they had food, but because they needed to be close to their sacred mountain, the center of their world. Göbekli Tepe might be the very birthplace of organized society. It shows that before our ancestors built houses for themselves, they built a house for their gods. The human imagination, the ability to create a shared reality and work together to build it, might be the most fundamental building block of civilization. As amazing as Göbekli Tepe is, the most incredible part might be that we've barely scratched the surface. Millennia of soil still cover the vast majority of the site. Geophysical surveys have revealed that what's been excavated is maybe just 5% of the total complex. The scans show at least 16 more enclosures, some even larger than the ones we can see today, waiting underground. What secrets do they hold? The work at Göbekli Tepe is slow and deliberate. Klaus Schmidt, who dedicated his life to the site, always argued for a careful pace. He believed future archaeologists, with better technology, should have their chance to make discoveries. He said the site has enough secrets to keep people busy for another 50 years or more. And the story is already evolving. For a long time, Göbekli Tepe was seen as a lone ceremonial center. But very recent excavations have started to uncover permanent domestic buildings nearby. Archaeologists have also found sophisticated rainwater harvesting systems carved into the bedrock, suggesting a plan to support a real population. This new evidence challenges the simple idea of a sacred hill visited only by nomads. It suggests ritual and daily life were deeply intertwined. Perhaps a permanent settlement, a proto-city grew up around the temple, populated by artisans, keepers of the site, and their families. The story of Göbekli Tepe is far from over. It's still being written, one discovery at a time. It stands as a powerful monument to a time when our species made a collective leap of faith, investing everything they had into building a sacred space. If you found this journey into our ancient past as fascinating as I did, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the hidden corners of history. And let me know in the comments, what do you think was the true purpose of Göbekli Tepe? A temple, an observatory, a burial ground, or something else entirely? I'd love to read your theories. Göbekli Tepe is more than just the oldest temple ever found. It's a profound challenge to how we see ourselves. It forces us to look at our so-called primitive ancestors with a newfound respect, even awe. These weren't simple people. They were innovators, engineers, artists, and thinkers, capable of organizing their societies to achieve incredible things. They looked up at the same stars we do and asked the same fundamental questions about our place in the universe. Göbekli Tepe is their answer, carved in stone. It is a declaration that the search for meaning and the power of a shared idea aren't modern inventions. They are the ancient foundations upon which all of human civilization has been built. And as the work continues on that quiet, pot-bellied hill in Turkey, we can be sure of one thing: the greatest secrets of our own beginning are still waiting to be unearthed.